Hi everybody, Attorney Nouvelle Gonzalo here, Gonzalo Law with offices in Gainesville, Florida and Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, so I want to talk with you a little bit about 7 key tips to keep in mind in terms of negotiation and negotiation of contracts, negotiation of deals. Honestly, whenever we're doing negotiations, we do them every day, all day, from every email that we send, every interaction with people, even little kids to their parents. They're always negotiating. But with these 7 key tips, the first one I want to talk about is looking at it in terms of, instead of a win-win, we want to look at a fair, so that we're able to think about, okay, I'm going to give up a little bit, you're going to give up a little bit, but we're going to walk away and make sure that it's fair for really all the parties. Next, for number 2, I want to talk about do your research and be prepared before walking into any negotiation. And what does that look like? That looks like making sure you've read your case file, making sure that you understand the full scope of the issues that are involved. So that can be reading your contract in full. That can be really reviewing the emails and the key objectives and goals of the other side. Whatever it might be, so very important to go in prepared. And I'd like to add that it's very important to make sure your team is prepared and prepped with you. If you're going into a business negotiation and the people that are on your side, on your team, have not been prepped, have not reviewed all of the key facts and information, you may end up being in the midst of a negotiation only to find your own team undercuts you or says something you say, that was not what we discussed, or where are they coming up with that? So you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. That's in terms of preparation, reviewing the facts, making sure that you have all the details and that you're aware of everything. Next, be a great listener. This is number 3. Empathy is very important, but you also want to make sure that you have fully listened to what the other side has said. And when in a negotiation, allow them to speak, explain what they have to say, the reasoning behind what they have to say. And then you may actually find out some new information that you didn't know before. So make sure that you're really listening and avoiding things like trying to negotiate through emails, trying to negotiate through text messages. Do it in person. Another key fact, this is really number 4, and that is making sure that you're talking with the key decision maker. You don't want to go through an entire negotiation only to find out someone says, well, let me go take this back to my boss or my manager or whoever it is, and we'll think on it some more. You want to make sure that you're talking with the key decision makers in the deal or concerning the contract. And you might think of maybe car salesmen. They might say, I have to go talk about it with my manager. And you want to make sure that if you have a manager that you have to talk to, that you're already talking to them. So really make sure that you're talking to the key decision makers. Number 5, make sure you understand all the options before coming into the meeting. Before coming into that negotiation, you want to understand what's called your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, often called the BATNA. And so I want to make sure that you understand that you know what those alternatives to a negotiated agreement would look like. Talk those through with your team, look at those, consult those, and come in really ready to be flexible. And also know what's your minimum reserve value. Your reserve value is your minimum point, where beyond that point, you're not going any further. And if the other side gets to that point or wants to go lower, then you have to know at that point, it's very possible that negotiations may have to come to an end. So make sure that you're willing to, some of the best negotiations are when people are willing to walk away when they're in the midst of the negotiation if it gets to a certain point. So be willing to be flexible, have your options on the table with you, and know what your best alternative to a negotiated agreement is, your BATNA. So next, I really want to talk about number 6, which is never talk about never talk about cost in and of itself, independent of value. Anytime you're talking about numbers or pricing, you always want to make sure you're assigning the value that is being brought to the table as a result of that number or that pricing. It's never in and of itself all by itself. Lastly, for number 7, I want to talk about the value of negotiating with legal counsel with you. This is a big one because oftentimes you can have very sharp business people who know exactly what their company is about in and out. But there is a tremendous value to having legal counsel with you when negotiating. And that is because legal counsel is looking at it in terms of what will have to be said in front of a judge down the road if this happens to go south or if there happens to be any type of court proceeding and that sort of thing. Lawyers, as legal counsel, we know what judges are going to ask, generally speaking, and so we make sure in the negotiations that certain questions are asked and that certain key objectives are met, because we understand that both the rules of evidence are going to later come into play, the rules of civil procedure, as well as contracts and corporate law. So you want to make sure that you're taking that into consideration when you're thinking about, do I want to go this negotiation alone or do I want to have legal counsel? Highly recommend legal counsel. Even if your organization may not be in a position to have legal counsel throughout the entire engagement of the negotiation, they can still coach you through it and work on sticking points and that sort of thing. Because not only do you want to look at the business implications of what you're doing, but you want to look at the legal implications of what you're doing. All right, well, that is it. Thanks so much, everybody. So excited to talk with you today. And please click below, like, follow us, engage with us. Let us know if you've got questions. We'd love to engage with you. Take care and talk to you soon.